Anybody who tells you that is lying. All right. What you need to get to, and when you're deciding, again, what risks to take, is deciding what in your life can be out of balance at any one point. My life goes from I have to focus on what I'm doing from a career perspective to my sons need me for this, and it's true, as your kids get older, they actually need you in different ways, and it's in some ways more demanding. Or I know I need me time. I need to carve out this. So at any one time, I'm sort of figuring out what can I afford to be out of balance for that amount of time, and then you kind of shift it. But it's never, you can't ever, ever balance it, other than the fact if you don't need to sleep, you don't need to eat, and you don't really need to, to do all of those other things, which we all can't do. So it's balancing, in some ways, all of those different things.
Okay, great. So because we're running out of time, I'll ask one last question before we open it up to the audience. When women, progress in their careers, it gets harder and harder when you're progressing. But it's even harder for women of minority groups, women of color, who don't look like everybody else. What advice would you have for women in general and women of a minority group in specific? Any advice that you would share?
Yeah, I think, the one thing to remember is that when you are different, and whether your name is different, your accent is different, you look different, you're more visible. So everything good that you do is magnified and noticed. Vice versa, if you fail, it'll be noticed. And in both cases, the success and the failure, not always, but oftentimes can get attributed to that difference. So what I've always felt is that you just need to be better than everybody else. And you've probably heard this a million times. You just need to work harder. You need to work smarter. You need to show results at the bottom line. So the good thing about this culture is that results are valued. It's a meritocracy. And when the results are there, people stop seeing your color or your gender or that you have a scarf on your head. What they look at is the spectacular results. And so the key thing is to say, how can I be really, really good at something? How can I be indispensable? How can I be better than anybody else? So that's one thing that I think it's kind of obvious, but it's worth saying again. The second thing, I would say there's three. The second, I would say absolute integrity and trustworthiness. You must develop a reputation as someone who always delivers on a promise or an obligation. So if you take on a commitment, you will absolutely deliver on it. People have to feel like, if I give this task to so-and-so, I know I can go home. It's going to get done. And finally, the third one, I think, has been mentioned before, and I feel it's very useful, is to have mentors. Mentors within the enterprise as well as mentors outside. Within the enterprise, to the extent that you can find people to mentor you who know the system, who know politically how to navigate the system, who will help you position yourself, I think is very useful. And they may not be women. They could be men. Men can be just as good mentors as women. So I think those are the three things that I would say for me have worked well for me, and have worked well for other minority women as well.
Great, thank you so much. So if we have some questions from the audience, then we can take those.
Sure. A couple of things that I'd mention is number one, the difficulty that I'm having is finding the best, delegating, and keeping them motivated. Has been the biggest challenge.
Are you an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Yeah. I think motivating people comes from shared passion and shared vision. Mm-hmm. So if you can present a vision of the company that is something that is infectious, that everybody can buy into that vision, can buy into that passion, the motivation comes automatically. I can tell you, when I started my second company, I had barely announced that I had started it when I got 20 phone calls and people said, I'm willing to leave my wonderful cushy job, I want to come work for you. Because they said, what you have articulated as the vision for this new company sounds so exciting, I want to be there. And I don't care about the money, and I don't care if it succeeds or fails. I want to be part of it. So to me, as an entrepreneur, that's what you have to infuse in the team, is that same passion, that same excitement that you yourself feel. And if you can do that, motivation, all of that will come. People will want to be there with you.
I'd like to also add, you are a role model. So to the extent that you have to be the person you want everyone else to be. So, and you have to be that, in spades. So you got to live the passion, live the vision, and people will follow that. So, if you do it, they will come, in a sense.
My name is Alia, and it's a wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing your wonderful views. I have a question for Lori-Ann. I just want to add on to something that Wendy had in her presentation, a very common feeling that if we have a board or something and we have a woman, then a woman would think twice more than what a guy would think to bring another woman on the board, and a common situation around that thing. I just wanted to ask you that you worked for Hillary Clinton, and was it easier for you to communicate to her your perspective of the things that you would want her to do and not to do? Or you think it would have been easier for you to work with a guy versus a woman who was running for the highest office in the country?
Well, I think that one of the reasons I decided to work with Hillary, to support her, is because I thought I had a common sense and a common affinity, and I related to who she was and her values, and so I think that did bring an affinity. But I think all of us who supported Hillary self-selected to support, especially if we did like I did, really gave a large part of our time to her. Well, now it's Secretary of State Clinton and Barack Obama, they're all, President Obama, they are all extraordinary people who have a capacity to connect with people, and they wouldn't be where they are if they didn't. So I can't say that I didn't get as close to Barack Obama in the process, but I'm sure similar people who were involved at that level had a similar feeling. So I don't know if it's a gender thing really. I think it's a leadership thing and an empathy thing that these people have.
That's a great answer.
Okay, well, if no one has a question, I have a question. So I've been in maybe 2 startups so far in operating role and 3 in a sort of upstart mode, meaning we had an idea, we thought it was cool, so we built it, and then there's nothing now. So, and actually the ideas weren't so bad, but what I'm learning is it's the people who you work with. They got to be what we call rock stars, right? So they're smart, they have integrity, they want to make money, maybe, I don't know. So wanted to ask, I think maybe Hildy and Talat, this question about entrepreneurs and founders particularly. We know the traits that, or at least I think I know the traits that are important in a founder, but how do you find them, and how important is smarts versus the passion to make a difference? And I think they're both equally important, and I'm finding the imbalance is causing me to meet the wrong people to start a company, so.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think they're both necessary. I think the smarter the people and the more passionate, that helps. But you also have to balance, and I think Tilia said it, you need to balance skill sets. You need to have what you see are your skills with them as well. And then the other thing you need to do is it is also important when you're looking at an idea to go out and try to build, I won't call them mentors, but I'll call them advisors who know the industry, they know the right people that you need to be in, who you need to get to, they know some of the customers, they've failed like we all have, so they can help you navigate some of that. They can then introduce you on